be a lot less.
That's why you're sitting in the back.
An obvious question is, what am I talking about tonight? And the title is Sisters of Skye, and it's really about women in skiing. And I'd love to tell you that I've got a really nice unified theme here, but in reality I'm going to show you some nice pictures. I'm going to tell you a few stories and try to link it all. It's so big. I'm just going to share a few pieces of it. Stories from the history of women in skiing. I'm going to take it back 1,000 years and show you pictures of it through the years. 1,000 years. This is Skye. She's the Norse goddess of skiing. And the book on the left is Prose Edda. It was written in the year 1220 and by Snorri Sturluson. He was the first guy who actually took all the Norse myths and put them together and documented them. So he tells a lot of stories about Skye, and he writes, and this is sort of the key part, then Skye went up into the mountain. She goes there for the more part on ski and with a bow and arrow and shoots beasts. She is called the ski goddess, or the lady of the ski. So she was the first well-known female skier. This is a patch that we put together.
How do you spell her name?
Skade. And sometimes it'll be Skadi. With the Norse myths, there's lots of different ways to spell everything. So this is from 1555. This is a book that Olaus Magnus wrote. He got kicked out of Sweden and he went down to Italy and he published a book. It had a bunch of images. He didn't quite get the skis right. You see that where the feet are on the ski. And a later writer, well, this is Olaus Magnus showing how common skiing was. Here's a couple. We got kids in the packs on the back. You know, so skiing was just utilitarian. It was just a way to get around, a way to carry the kids. So this is 1674. This is John Shefferus, and it's the first accurate depiction of a skier. In this case, it's a Sami woman on skis. And you'll see that he's got the skis right. There's a shorter ski and a longer ski. The short one had fur on the bottom.
Sorry. I'm about to push you.
No. They're trying to check in for that. So the short ski would have fur on the bottom, like a kid on a scooter that stand on the long ski and push with that short ski. It worked. So this is a traditional Sami dress, you know, for a female skier. Short skirt and leggings underneath that. I'll point that out and I'll come back to that. This is the lady from Turkey. She's on what's called a lozboard. And technically, it's not a modern snowboard because her feet are just on the board. They're not attached anyway. And she's got a rope that you see here that's tied to the front. But in Turkey, they've been using lozboards for 300 years. In Austria, they actually used something similar a couple hundred years before that, but I don't have any good images of it. So,
And what are you calling it, a log board?
L-A-Z,
Oh.
lozboard. And you know, this is obviously a modern photo. Some things like the people in Austria and in Turkey had never really left that sort of couple villages up in the mountains. They were common there, but it never got outside. Never had any impact on the sport. It didn't grow.
Probably not used by L-A-Z-Y people.
Probably not. Now, this one's in here for a couple of reasons. One, we have acquired McClure's magazine from 1885, and this is an article of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and his wife Louisa. And they were, in 1885, they left England and they spent a month in St. Moritz learning how to ski. Then they went back and told everybody how much fun they had. And that really was the trigger to the Brits going on winter holiday. And really, these are two of the first people that went on a winter ski vacation. I mean, it had been done before, but they were two of the first, and the first to really make some noise and to write about it. So, I like that. This is Eva Nansen. Fridtjof Nansen skied across Greenland. He tried to make it to the North Pole, he never did. But by skiing across Greenland, he became a worldwide hero, superstar. He was well known everywhere. And in his book, he put this photo in. The caption says, "The modern Skade on ski." So that really is an image of Eva. Now, what's interesting is, see how she's dressed? Sort of like that Sami woman, short skirt, pants. Ooh, bad, bad, bad. Norwegian society did not like that. Women were not supposed to be
Showing their
yeah.
Even
Despite the
though
fact that we're in
they're all
chaos, right?
They were all wrapped up.
So, ice skating was a big sport, and that was approved by Norwegian society, because ice skating rinks are small, it's easy to watch. If the girls are hanging out too much with the boys, the parents can know, because it's an ice skating rink. Skiing, no, they're going off in the woods, so skiing was frowned on. And when she started dressing like that and skiing with the boys, she took a lot of flack. She wrote in an article that when she wore this outfit in public one time, a young man told her he was a little horrified, but he believed that in 10 years the ladies would follow my example. Now, Eva was husband of Fridtjof, so she was famous that way. But before she married Fridtjof, she was more famous than he was, because she was a mezzo-soprano singer that toured Europe regularly. She was very famous. So for her, high up in Norwegian society, to dress like this in the scandalous fashion, she took a lot of heat. So she wrote a newspaper article, and she says, "Can anyone seriously claim that women become more immoral from skiing, even if it takes place with gentlemen? Does anyone believe that Christiania's ballrooms, streets, cafes are, morally speaking, healthier places for young girls than the fields and woods around Christiania? Even if the worst should happen, and they are not home before God." Image of Fridtjof and Eva. Yeah. They each have one pole. And one of the interesting things about our exhibit here is we have some single poles over in the corner there. And using one pole was the way it was done for a long time. And kids come in and they see the single pole and they just love it. They just love it. They carry it around. And it's sort of, we'll put a couple poles in the corner. It's one of the more popular pieces of the whole thing. So,
There was somebody on the mountain the other day skiing with a long pole like that.
yeah, you don't see it very often. I think they call it lurking.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I have them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You kind of drag it on the inside of the turn.
Hold it almost like a kayak paddle.
Yeah. Doesn't look like much of a backcountry skier, does she? This is Mrs. Josephine Perry. She's the one who wrote this book. And she's the one who, in 1882, she overwintered on the very northern end of Greenland. First woman to spend the winter that far north. And she details the whole thing in her book here. And it's very cool. She was from society. She and Robert were both from Brunswick. So they spent summers on Eagle Island, there in Casco Bay, and then she went to Greenland. I just think this photo is funny. I mean, there she is, dressed up, carrying her purse, whatever she's got there, and that's what she's got for company. But she did learn to adapt.
And that's her?
That's her, yep.
We like those close by.
Yeah, I like the gun too. She wrote in her journal, this is Sunday, January 17th. Today at 2 p.m., Mr. Perry, it's not Robert or Bert, it's Mr. Perry. Mr. Perry and I went for our tramp. The temperature was 45 below, and the only chance to walk was along the pathway through the depth of snow 3/4 of the way to the iceberg. It is astonishing how little I feel these low temperatures. Now, as a handout, we've got a piece that a little bit more on Mrs. Perry. So before you leave, we've got some over here for you. So it's a couple more photos and a little bit more from her journal.
Is she talking 45 degrees below Fahrenheit?
Yes, yeah. Which is pretty chilly.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I'd say minus 42.
Really? Wow.
42 below.
Yeah.
Yeah, like overnight.
The lowest temperature.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's cool. In the
They only do it feeding them.
yeah, right. In the handout, there's a story about New Year's Eve party that she hosted. So it's funny. And Thursday, February 18th, she writes, a bright sunny day. Mr. Perry got out his ski, and they always did ski in quotes. Friedrich Nassen always wrote it that way. She always writes it that way. Got out his ski and began coasting down the hill back of the house. Astrup and the dog had joined in the sport. I spent the time taking photographs of the boys. So, because we have this book and can take such a close look at Mrs. Perry, I really get a kick out of her and everything that she did. She went through some stuff and she adapted. This is Kit's great aunt Bertha. Her picture's on the wall over there. This is outside of Bangor, and Bertha is one of her friends. This is Bertha on the left. And look at that pole she here.
This one right here?
Yeah, no, Bertha's right behind Pete there.
Oh, okay, I see it.
He knows that she lived in Bangor, and this is outside someplace. And I don't have the names here, but again, this photo is up there with the names of these two ladies. These are two school teachers from New Sweden. And that's where skiing in Maine started, when the Swedes came in the winter of 1870-71. So these are two school teachers out for a fun ski. We were talking earlier about Theo Johnson with these people over here, and Theo wrote the first book on skiing in North America. He lived in Portland, Maine, and this is the cover of the first ski book. And he had a lot of pictures of women in the book. And this is one of my favorites. The photo was shot in a studio in Portland. It's a hand-painted backdrop that Theo himself did. The hat is held up with wire. Makes it look like she's flying through the snow. And eBay is a funny thing because I actually bought on eBay copper plates used to print this photo in the book. And you can see that the plate has been scratched. And that's what created the flying snow.
Oh, that's okay. That's the effect of speed.
Yeah.
So Theo writes, the introduction of the modern lightweight ski, and S-K-E-E. And they weren't skiers, they were ski-doors. So the introduction of the modern lightweight ski has made it possible for all ages and both sexes to enjoy traveling over snow-clad land or ice, breathing in the crisp, clear air, and feasting the eyes on the passing landscape and its myriad panoramic charms. Theo advertised heavily, and I like this ad here. Again, we have a copy of that ad, 1905, from Scientific American. While there's snow, there's skiing. The happiest healthy hours of winter will be those spent on Tachko skis. You'll hear in Cassidy's video, she says something much like that about how much she enjoys being outdoors in the winter. Get up here early and glide, coast, and leap into health and happiness. Now we're getting into some images that I just like the pictures, so you're gonna have to bear with me. These are from a 1909 book written by E.C. Richardson, and E.C. was one of the first guys to actually write a real, here's what skiing is. Theo's book was kind of a booklet, kind of a pamphlet. E.C. Richardson really dug into it. It really explained the whole sport, where to do it, how to do it, and very clearly he's got a lot of women. So Eva was right. Although I guess those skirts are still pretty long. Remember I told you that Arthur Conan Doyle and Louisa were some of the first to popularize wintertime vacations? The Brits really listened to them, and they really took it to heart. And this book is from 1911, and again, this is one of the books we have in our collection. So this is a great way for us to share this with you. So the Winter Sport book by Reginald Cleaver. And Cleaver did all the artwork in the book.
Yeah, I like the guy that put his piece on.
Well, here's a funny one. Okay,
Wow,
a couple ladies
George,
in Georgia. Yeah.
Wow.
Now,
Horses.
this was at a time women were starting to do this stuff, and they were kind of accepted, but there's still a little bit of uncertainty about it. Reginald was a big supporter of women, but he wrote his book in a very tongue-in-cheek fashion. So the plate here, the caption of this photo, man's preserves in any kind of winter sport, as in other sports, have practically disappeared. There is practically nothing left in which he is allowed to specialize. They're taking over everything. You know? But you look at the images, and he's clearly goofing on people. And it can't be shown any better than with this one.
Wow.
The title here is Husbands and Wives. See the wives and the husbands are up here going, wow. So the women are definitely in charge in Reginald's book. This is, again, I'm going to say this many times, this is one of my favorite images. When the Brits went on holiday, they'd go for a month at a time. And so the caption for this one, the last thing newcomers expect to see is a personal acquaintance of the type illustrator on a toboggan. It is equally certain, however, that they will also toboggan and probably in time provide precisely the same set of impressions for the next arrival. So this lady's been in St. Moritz for a month, so she's taken up the sports. These people have picked a bride, and they're all looking askance at what she's doing. Now, many of you have seen the flyer we put out about this presentation. And our executive director, Kate, is not able to be here tonight. She's got COVID. And she was really disappointed not to be able to be here tonight and share this with you. This is one of her favorite images right here. And you know, when I was talking to her about what to put in here, she said, "Can we put in my favorite girl?" I'm like, "You bet." So that's her. Again, this is from 1909. Young lady, she's just out there playing. She's having a ball.
Oh, this is from that book?
This is from that same book,
Look
E.C.
at how short
Richardson.
her skirt is. Good for you, girl.
Yeah, exactly. These are from a 1932 French book. Jean Montesquieu. And,
Others use a strap over your ankles.
yeah. So they're doing telly turns, you know, arm in arm, or hand in hand rather, and they're just beautiful images. From 1932. This is Polly. 1925. Polly grew up in Sanford, and I was talking with Pete a few minutes ago about how hard it is to get an artifact and a story. In this case, we have the story about Polly. She's 3, Sanford, and we have her skis. So to have the image with those skis is really cool.
That's good.
So 1920s, we're starting to figure out skiing. We're starting to, in this country, we're starting to embrace it. Theo in 1905, beautiful skis, Aussie businessman. He was 20 years early. He went out of business in 1907. He just was early. We don't start to get excited about skiing in this country until we get into the 1920s. Harris, Bass, Cubs were some of the big companies here in Maine, but also nationally. We've got, over here, we've got 3 generations of Bass boots on exhibit, and a number of different Paris skis. Winter carnivals were big in the 1920s here in Maine, and we just got these two posters. Victor Linnell's was a Deering student, he was 17, and he won a contest, and he did this poster for the 1922 carnival. And then the next year he did that for the 1923 carnival. So 1924, the Portland Press Herald wrote this about the jump. You can see all the people down here. So I can't write this way, it just sounds stupid, but I love reading it, the way they wrote back then. When a crowd of over 5,000 people gather in one locality to witness an event, something must be going on. That's how it was at the Western Promenade, when ski jumpers of international fame, hauling masses of humans into the heights of excitement and ecstasy. Shooting down the smooth takeoff like rockets, the daring jumpers shot into space far above the heads of the spectators. 1924.
That's on the Western Front.
Yeah, you're looking, the airport's out here,
That's amazing.
but the main entrance that way, that food processing place, run blank on the name, that was it right here.
Barber Foods.
Barber Foods, yes, exactly, yeah. So you're looking down at Barber Foods at that hillside. Evergreen Cemetery is right sort of where the jump is.
Very steep there.
Very steep hill, yeah. So ski jumping was really popular. And one of the most popular ski jumpers was a young lady by the name of Miss Margaret Town. She appeared in competitions all over Maine. So I've seen ads for the Augusta Winter Carnival that was talking about the ski jumpers. And Miss Margaret was the only one that was mentioned by name. Now, she was a woman. She was 16 or 17, depending on what year. So she couldn't jump in the competition, but she jumped in the exhibitions. After the competition, they'd bring Miss Margaret out, and she would jump, and other guys would jump, and they'd go off 2 at a time sometimes. In a Rumford Carnival, she did a triple jump. 2 people going off the jump at once was impressive, but she went off in 2 guys. 3, triple jump. So, again, Portland Press Herald. Miss Margaret Town, a winsome lass of 15, clad in an all-white jumpsuit, electrified the crowd twice with excellent jumps off the high ground. Remembering her from the previous years, she sailed on her swift flight through space. Now, it's sort of a sad story because she jumped and she was popular for about 4 years, and then she just disappeared. 1926 was the last, and she just disappeared. There was no, other than this, there was no venue for women in jumping. Her high school yearbook said, "Our nervy, courageous, daring ski jumper, champion of the East, destined for the championship of the world. You are small, Margaret, but the best things always come in small packages. Your indomitable spirit and iron will lead you to undreamed heights of fame." Then in the book License to Jump, ski jumping, they wrote, "Town competed from 1923 to 1926, but disappeared from the scene after that. But she made an unforgettable impression over those 4 years."
Where was she from?
Berlin, New Hampshire,
Oh,
and and she jumped in Berlin. She jumped in a lot of places in New England. And she was a regular on Rumford, Augusta, and Portland Winter Carnivals. I think she jumped 3 years in Portland. So, 1924, the first Winter Olympics in St. Moritz. Ski jumping was one of the big events for men. It took 90 years before women were allowed to ski jump. There were Olympic guys running the Olympics. They thought it was bad for women's bodies. That the impact was dangerous.
Hey, you guys, football.
So, there were a couple ladies here in Maine that jumped, but it really was not something that women did and were not allowed to until 90 years later. And women's ski jumping is now a real sport and an Olympic sport, and is very popular. And women do great. This is 1923. This is the Augusta Winter Carnival. And again, this is the ski jump. And William Gannett, a businessman, he owned newspapers. This was on his estate in Augusta. And he had this jump built. It's a windmill. So it was the only windmill jump ever built. That's not all, there's more. See right there? That's a chair hanging from the blade. Now, that's a big heavy blade. There's no way the wind was going to move that. So it was an electrically powered windmill. But you could sit in this chair and ride around. But
Could the skiers use it to get up there?
no. There's a door on the other side and stairs that take them up. But the real point of this picture is this lady here. In a number of pictures, you see these ladies. Looks like the lady on the toboggan. This lady. I mean, she's looking at that ski down there. I think, I wonder if I could take those skis and go down. This is a pennant from the 1928 Rumford Winter Carnival. And one of the reasons I like it is stuff from the 20s is black and white. You don't often get to see color in the images, so I like the color of this one. This is Poland Spring in the 1920s. Again, you can see everyone's got this one pole. Skiing's about having fun, right? Being with your family, being with friends, out there having a good time. We have, I think, both of these as postcards. And when you get your handout on Mrs. Perrott, we've got a waterproof sticker on there, and you're welcome to take one of the postcards. I was gonna have, Donna was gonna put some on here, but then I was like, no, people can pick their own. So take a look at the postcard rack. These two are postcards that we've got available for you. I just like this. They're wearing numbers, they're racing, probably a cross-country race. Just having fun. Again, 1920s. This is Poland Spring. So this is going down onto the pond. And you can see the toboggan slide goes way out to here someplace. So I bet they were moving by the time they got down there. And again, I love these two ladies here. Just looking. They've got a toboggan, they're probably about to try it themselves. When you look at the magazine covers, and this is one of those instances that I told you, I've just got some pretty pictures that I want to share with you. Don't really have much of a story here, but these are illustrative of what skiing was like then. And again, the colors are the great images. Modern Priscilla, February 1922, 20 cents and worth more. Has anyone written a T-bar? Okay, how about a J-bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this is a J-bar. What did they call the T-bar when it first came out? People were always riding up by themselves on the J-bar. So when the T-bar came out, what's that?
Call it a double J?
No, a he and she stick. But what I like about this is the book that she's reading, How to Ski.
She's got two poles.
I think that-
Very modern.
Right, exactly, very modern.
T-bars.
Just as Reginald Cleaver in 1911 showed women in a strong role, Country Gentleman shows a woman out skiing the man, cutting him off and outdoing him.
Spraying in the snow.
Yep, and I love this one.
Oh, she's got a pole.
Isn't that a great image? Look at the big smile on her face.
Well, what year is that?
Uh,
Can you tell?
oh, I should
Oh,
have
that's
used
all
that
right,
one.
that's all right. Because now she's really got on a ski outfit.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's sweater.
This is, I think, like 1932, I think this is. Sun Up, Maine's own magazine. Winters. This is another image that we have up over there. This is from New Sweden, and it's a photo postcard, and it's from March of 1931. My chum and I, two young ladies on the way to school, skiing on the way to school.
The skirt's on.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a booklet for the Boston and Maine Railroad. When they started skiing in many places, they brought in people from big cities like Portland on the trains. So Freiburg in 1935 had the first rope tow in the state. And the first year that they opened it, they opened up the town to visitors. They brought thousands of people into town in February. So they get off the train, and they get on these big horse-drawn sledges, and they take them to ice skate. They take them to Jockey Cap, where there was the rope tow. They take them other places that they learned to ski. There was no infrastructure. There was no base lodge. So the fear was that people would get cold. So they solved that problem by asking the town to help. So the townspeople had these hand-painted signs that said, "Welcome." And if you, when you leave, look back at this big poster that's in the window right there. That's a big mock-up of that welcome sign. So it was originally used. So if you're this lady and you want to sit down someplace and warm up, you look for one of those signs in the window, and you're welcome to come in and sit by the fire and warm up. So 35, skiing was kind of a new sport.
Did a train go from Boston to Freiburg, or did they have to?
No,
Pull up there from Portland?
yeah, from Portland and then in.
Wow.
And the snow trains out of Boston, there was no set route. You'd show up on a Sunday usually. People worked half days on Saturdays. So the snow trains were on Sundays. And so the train would take you to wherever the snow was best. So sometimes you'd come to Maine, sometimes you'd go to New Hampshire. But it's just like, yep, we're going to the mountains somewhere.
What do you mean the train didn't go to Freiburg?
Didn't go directly to Freiburg from Boston. It would go from Boston to Portland and Portland to Freiburg.
At some point, in the recent past, they had a train from Boston to from Portland to Sunday River.
Yep, not long ago, yep.
Didn't last all either.
Right.
It was very inconvenient. You didn't get to the mountain till like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think we did it once or twice.
And it would get you to Bethel, and then you'd get on a bus and go
Right.
up from there. So I did it once, and I'm glad I did it, but it was only once. So Avon Hilton was a Deering High School student. And he was invited, the whole Deering ski team was invited to Freiburg to ski on that first day, opening day for the rope top. And Avon said, you know, I think they were afraid they weren't going to get very many skiers, so that's why they invited us. They had about 100 people skiing, but they had 3,000 people that showed up to watch the skiers. It was jumping in the 30s, it was a spectator event. In the 30s, we see that transition from spectator to, I can do that. When Toe opened in Waterville, same thing. It was this cold, sleet, freezing rain day. Governor was there for the ribbon cutting. Cars were parked on the side of the road for miles. There were 5,000 people that showed up to watch. 100 or 200 people skiing. But these are both images from Freiburg. People at the jockey cap toe. And then this is an image from, I'm talking, I'm a page or two behind on my notes. Dunham's Trading Post was a big ski retailer in Waterville. And they actually opened the first toe there in Waterville. And sort of illustrating the importance of snow trains, they wrote, Dunham's hits a new high in smartness, in workmanship, and in materials. You will find no other clothing in this field so closely approaching the needs of the active participant in winter sports. Now, we were talking earlier about tubs, and Paris and tubs were very competitive as ski makers in the 20s. By the 30s, not so much. Paris really had taken over. And Bass Boots started making ski boots in the 20s. And by the 30s, they were one of the biggest boot makers in the country. They sold nationally. And great ads. This was a full-page ad in Ski Illustrated in the 30s. And they just did a really nice job with their advertising. And with the boots. So, this is January 1943, Ski Illustrated magazine. Fashion is, as it was then, as it is now, important. People paid attention to it. Families started to learn to ski. It started to become a family thing as more and more people, as the sport grew. I like this photo. This is from around early 50s, 52, something like that. Mrs. Godfrey Rockefeller. She's up here at Sugarloaf, and at this point there's no toes yet. So, see what she's got around her waist are the climbing skins. We can take a closer look at some when we're done here. So she's getting ready to climb up, and on the wall right here, you have a sign. You can't see it, but when you get up, take a look back here. Sugarloaf Ski Trail, pointing to it. One trail, huh? I just think that's funny. I was telling you about Avon Hilton, skiing at the jockey cap, the rope toe. This is his wife, Viola. And this is Hurricane Mountain in Falmouth. And it was a really popular ski area. It was close to town, close to Portland, so it was easy to get to. They had rope toe, they actually had lights for night skiing. You can see the ice. It's grooming is a little different back then than it is now. What's that?
The new Zambonis.
Yeah, exactly.
Falmouth was known for its mountains.
I just like the change in fashion. Who remembers Susie Chaffee? What was her nickname?
Chapstick.
Right. That's Susie Chapstick right there. And Corky Fowler beside her. Who's this?
Betsy.
1994, Betsy and some other Mainers were, sugarloafers were in Snow Country magazine. And this is a full page on featuring Betsy.
Great photo, Betsy.
Isn't that nice?
Is that a one-piece outfit?
Yeah, and I gave it to the museum.
I don't blame you.
I didn't buy,
They're
I
coming back.
didn't get that one, I actually waited until it went on sale, and then I bought one, and skied it when it was in fashion, but then when they left, I said, okay, museum time. Yeah. But he fixed something.
I'm about to pick something. The caption says that Betsy's father Bunny found in Sugarloaf.
Which is not what I said.
That's not what she said, and Bunny was very upset because he was one of, but there were a lot of people, as you all know, a lot of people worked to get this mountain open. We have some pictures on the wall back there of Stubb Taylor, Amos Winter, and Fletcher Brown, who were all very instrumental in building the ski area. Bunny was very instrumental, but he was not the founder. Is that good?
That is good, and you're gonna kind of, you're changing the wording on there if it's anywhere, right?
That's right.
See, I was told I would get a draft of what this person said, and she didn't write what I said, and she didn't give me a draft either, she just published it, and then I had to face my dad. It wasn't good. He didn't get mad at me, because he knew I wasn't, it isn't what I said, but it was not a pretty sight.
What magazine was that?
Snow Country, it was there, this was 1994 November, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Right. John Fry started
Just
it.
because of all the line
Yeah.
writers. Anyway, thank you.
Well, history is interesting, and something like that gets out there, and who's not going to believe in national publication, right? So it can be damaging. So these are three Maine women: Kirsten Clark, Julie Parisian, and Nikki Pilavakis, and they've all done extremely well in the World Cup. Nikki was world champion. She won the season title. Julie was slalom skier. She was ranked #1 in the world. She won World Cup races. And Kirsten was a downhiller from Raymond, and very successful. Carter's Cross Country Center in Bethel has every January a wooden ski day. So we went, and this is Kate Barnes, our ED, on a pair of split kind, thank you. Split kind skis, bamboo poles, and Phelps boots, which I don't think Bass made, but I think they had something to do with the distribution of them.
Which one?
Phelps?
No.
Felt boots.
I don't know about that, but I know that the binding that probably went with it was.
Yeah, yeah. This is Jen Carter, Jess Carter, excuse me, Jess Carter. And what's cool about this picture, look at those skis.
Really?
They're 12 feet long. That's the longest pair of skis that we know of in the East. My ski history mentor is a guy named John Allen, and remarkable man. And he had me measure them. He says, I've heard about those skis. How long are they? So I measured
Do
them.
you have them here?
No. Jess has Carter's Cross Country Center, and she has the skis there. And her dad, before he passed, he put modern bindings on them so they can take them out skiing. I cringe when I see it, but we have some long skis here. We have some up there from the 1800s. Those are more like 8 feet long. I've pointed out a couple of these ladies. I just get a kick out of this. This lady, that lady, we saw her, didn't see her, she's there, sort of supporting her family, supporting her friends, and we need ladies like that that are are watching, that are participating, and helping the next generation. Encouraging. This is Susanna Hancock. She's, next month of May, she is going to do a ski trek. This is Svalbard, which is one of the most northernmost pieces of land there is. It's 400 miles north of the northern point of Norway. It's up close to the Arctic Circle. And in 1872, this guy named Nordenskjold he was trying to get up to the North Pole. He didn't get close, but he was one of the early guys to really push where people can go. So he was up there and he skied around in this area. Because he was trying to get to the North Pole, he had to document it. So he took a lot of photos and was very precise about where the photos were taken. So Susanna is going out there with 700 people, and she's going to ski between 200 and 400 miles, depending on the ice, depending on where they can go. They're going to recreate those photos that Nordenskjold took in 1872, because they want to see how things have changed. You know, the glacier was here, where is it now? And I've done a little bit of reading about that area, and she's going to be, now remember I said May, she's going to be in temperatures of 35 and 40 below. And her sled is going to be about 180 pounds.
Is it all women?
No. I think I think there are 2 other women.
Are they all scientists?
Yeah, they're all climate scientists. Yeah.
So they're, what are they, from the University of Maine or something, or?
It's an international group.
Oh.
So she's in polar bear country, so she's right now learning how to shoot a gun. And I made the comment that, back up here, freaked up nuts and tried to get to the North Pole, and he didn't make it, and he got lost. He came down, and he ended up landing in Svalbard and spending winter there. And he subsisted mostly on polar bear. And so I mentioned that to Susanna, and she said, yeah, we're not going to eat any polar bear. They have heavy metal in the blood.
They probably hope to see a polar bear.
Yeah, no, they're planning.
Yeah, but they're getting so scarce now.
Yeah. So, this is just a nice picture. There's no story there.
For girls to get out there in the backcountry and just show them that it's a lot of fun.
And the White Mountain film, the
Oh,
White
yeah.
Mountain backcountry.
We did it for a film festival where we had to create a film in 48 hours. And we had to film it, edit it, and everything in just 48 hours. And it was pretty fun.
And then she's not being totally full about the story, which is, once it was finished and submitted to the film festival, it won first place in their category. She's from CPA.
So in there, you'll hear this in a moment, but I love this line. The feeling of being at the bottom of a run that you just skinned up and skied down is so empowering. I just wish that all girls could experience that feeling and feel empowered that you can accomplish anything. The cheerleader over here.